Welcome to r/entitled people, where we share stories from your lives about people who think the rules don't apply to them and they should get what they want. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story: the woman thought she could get away with cheating when the city was on fire. The second story: the boss and his son humiliate the workers and end up with nothing. The third story: when tired of getting takeaway, why not go to jail? The first story is: entitled woman gets caught with attempting fraud. For the past 2 months, heck, maybe more honestly, there's been a raging wildfire 15 minutes outside of my city. Cameron Peak wildfire has now become the biggest wildfire in my state's history. On Wednesday, it got really bad. Like, I almost cried it got so bad, because I woke up at 8 a.m. and my room was pitch black. I looked outside my window to find the sky was orange with smoke and ash. It was snowing ash all day. The fire had skipped so much due to 80-mile-per-hour winds. The sheriff department couldn't tell if the fire was going to rage through the small towns in the mountains outside of my city, because they couldn't control it at all. So they set out alerts left and right for mandatory evacuations. Like every 30 minutes, there was new evacuations. The smoke cloud looming over my city that day made the temperature drop to 50 degrees on a 70-degree day. I work in a hotel, so Wednesday I went into work for my normal shift. My managers told me I was going to be busy due to the evacuations and the firefighters that were staying. I was at the desk for 7 hours non-stop checking people in. People were calling asking for things. Luckily, they didn't want me to come to the room because they knew how busy I was, so they came down and waited in line like the saints they were. Everybody that was checking in that night were the biggest sweethearts I've ever met. I wanted them to stay forever. However, there's always one person out of a group of saints that likes to make our lives a living effing heck. At about 5 p.m., I had received a call from a woman stating she just got 2 emails about a hotel confirmation at our hotel and that she never booked the rooms. She asked if she could delete them because she thought her awards account, she was an awards member with us, had accidentally booked the rooms. Simple fix. I deleted them without charge. I emailed her the cancellation numbers. She thanked me. We hung up. An hour later, I see 2 more reservations come through under the woman's name again. I tried to call her and see if she booked the rooms. However, we instantly got busy. Luckily, she called me and asked me to delete them. I said of course because this was getting weird. I confirmed the confirmation numbers. I even asked for the phone number on file and the awards number showing. She got everything correct. I deleted them. She didn't even ask for the cancellation numbers because she was upset that somebody clearly had her account information. When somebody has your awards account information, they have access to the credit card that's associated with the account. That's why at my property, we ask for a credit card at check-in to assure the person staying in that room is the one getting charged and no credit card fraud is taking place. Before we hung up, she did ask if somebody came in for the rooms and they somehow booked under her name again. Would I use the card on file that's attached to awards account? I told her absolutely not, because in order for me to run the card, I have to have it present. So even if the person booking these rooms showed up, I would never do that. An hour later, a woman came in to check in. We will call her Tina. Tina, I need to check in. Me, all right then, what's the last night on the reservation? Tina, it is last name. Was the last name of the woman who had her information stolen. Me, ma'am, do you own the awards account attached to this reservation? Tina, no. Me, so the actual owner of this account called and deleted all of these reservations you've made. You do not have permission to check into these rooms. I've deleted them. Tina, what? How could you delete my reservations without my consent? Give me your manager. My lobby was full of tired people evacuating. However, they perked up at the show taking place. Tina, you need to put those reservations back. I need to pay for these rooms with that credit card. Me, you don't own this awards account, so no, I can make you new reservations, but I need your ID and credit card. Tina, no, you'll use the card on file on those reservations. I can't use my credit cards. Me, no, you don't own the account. The owner of the account called and deleted them. Tina, how can you just let somebody delete somebody else's reservation? Me, because she owns the account. She can do whatever she wants with the account. Tina, I need your manager right now. This is ridiculous. You deleted my reservations without my consent. Me, so either you vacate the property or you provide your ID and credit card to book these rooms under your name and card. Tina, no, you need to put the original reservations back right now. Me, ma'am, you've been caught attempting fraud. Tina looked shocked, looked around the room, and asked everybody why they were in the hotel. Tina, why are you all here? Everybody looked at her in shock. Human, because my house is burning down as we speak, and you're arguing with the front desk and wasting our times. Human 2, we've been evacuated, lady. Tina, I'm like them. My house is burned down, so put those reservations back on. Me, ID and credit card. Tina turned red. She turned and stomped her foot, walked over to her husband who was sitting in a chair in the lobby, grabbed his ID and credit card and came back and handed me them. Me, I need your ID too. Tina, no, this is ridiculous. Me, ID or vacate, it's your call. She hands me her ID. I make 2 new reservations under her name, as well as look at her address on her ID. Clearly she wasn't in risk of the fire. She was from so far out east of my state that yeah, she was perfectly fine. I made her reservations, ran the card, handed her papers to fill out. Tina, these aren't correct. This card number is my husband's. It was supposed to be the one from the original reservations. I told you to use that card. Me, you don't own that card. You do not own that awards account. Tina, why did you delete them? This got so annoying to the point somebody waiting in the back yelled, I need a shower, hurry up, to Tina, not me. Tina, what? These rooms aren't even by each other. I need them by each other. They were on the same floor 3 doors down. Me, these are the closest I can get. My hotel's been full for 2 weeks filled with firefighters. Tina, if you hadn't deleted the original reservations, then I would have been by each other, and we wouldn't be having this conversation and wasting all of our times. I literally stared at Tina. I said nothing. I stared at her. She kept yelling about using the card on the awards account. She kept yelling for a manager. I kept staring. She stopped yelling finally. I continued to stare. Tina, well, change the card now. Me, do you know what credit card fraud is, ma'am? Tina, yes. Me, all right then. I checked her out of the system, took back the papers, took a sip of my coffee, continued to nod at her, insulting me. Me, please get off my property. Since you know what fraud is, you know why you're being told to leave. Insert more yelling and screaming, demands for the manager. I just simply told her I am the manager. She went white. She turned around and left the building with her husband trailing behind her. No, I'm not a manager, but my manager said we're allowed to use that card if they get ridiculous like this. I called the owner of the awards account and gave her the name of the woman that came to check in under those reservations. She had no idea who that woman was and thanked me for protecting her information. The lovely people in the lobby watching the SH show take place walked up and let me pet all their dogs and cats. All the pet fees were waived for having to witness that Tina. I should add this, I didn't call the cops on Tina because my city was literally losing its mind. A block from my work there was a 16-car pileup. 22 had to go to the hospital, multiple in critical condition. Also, there was a 1-man, 5-cop shootout. People had completely lost their mind because of the fire. On my way to work that day, I had passed 5 cops and 3 sheriffs due to people losing their minds because of the fires. They had upped the number of cops on duty because there were so many calls coming in that night and making sure the evacuations coming from the mountain went smoothly. Like nobody would have been able to take the report or anything. That's why I called the owner of the awards account. So if she wished to file a police report, she could, because she wasn't in my city. So she'd be filing it with her city police, not mine. The second story is entitled Boss Gets What He Deserves. I'm a teacher, and when I was younger, I would take summer jobs to supplement my income. One summer I worked for a bricklayer named Jerry and heard an amazing story. I worked for Jerry in the mid-90s, so the story either happened in the early 90s or in the 80s. Here goes. The setting for the story was a community of small rural towns, which had only one brick contractor. Jerry began his career as a bricklayer working for this contractor, a real jerk. Jerk and Jerk's son, adult working in the business with his father, would harass, belittle, and humiliate all their employees on a regular basis. No work was ever good enough, and employees were told they weren't worth what they were paid. Not only did Jerk mistreat his employees, but he was equally rude to other subcontractors, and to the general contractors who hired him. Since he was the only bricklayer in the community, there was nothing anyone could do about it. Needless to say, the turnover rate for the brick business was very high. The only person that stuck with Jerk and company was Jerry. Jerry told me that his father had instilled a self-confidence in him, that Jerry could do anything he set his mind to do, and that he should not evaluate himself according to what others said, but rather by the facts. Although Jerry was belittled by Jerk and Son, as were all other employees, Jerry was becoming a very good bricklayer. Jerry knew he was good. Jerk knew Jerry was good, but Jerk didn't know that Jerry knew he was good. Not only was Jerry a good bricklayer, he was very respectful to the boss who disrespected him. Jerk thought that Jerry was a naive pushover who was buying his head games. That would prove to be a huge mistake on his part. One day, Jerry was doing an exceptionally good job of laying brick. Not only was his craftsmanship amazing, he was laying brick at a high rate of speed, so that he was making his boss lots of money. Of course, Jerk and Son were belittling his work, as though he was doing the very opposite. This scenario was being observed by the general contractor of the project. After work that day, the general contractor asked Jerry to stay behind, so he could talk to him, as did every other construction worker in the community. General contractor hated working with Jerk. General contractor told Jerry that he heard Jerk and Son belittling him, and told him that he disagreed with everything Jerk was saying. He asked Jerry if he had ever considered going into business for himself. Jerry said he would like to do that someday. General contractor then said that he would loan Jerry the money to buy a mixer, the most expensive piece of equipment needed to start a brick business, if Jerry would indeed start said business. The only hitch was that Jerry would need to pay for the mixer whenever he could, and that he would subcontract under general contractor. Jerry agreed to those terms and prepared to begin his new venture. Jerry respectfully told Jerk and Son his plans and gave his notice. The two mocked Jerry ruthlessly and laughed him to scorn. Jerk told Jerry, "You'll be back in 2 months begging to return to your job. You'll never make it as a subcontractor." 2 months later, rather than collapsing as Jerk predicted, Jerry was still in business and going strong. 1 year later, Jerry's business was booming, and a drunk Jerk showed up at Jerry's house and begged him to come back to work with Jerk and Son. "Jerry, you're the best employee I ever had." Jerry replied, "Why didn't you ever tell me that when I was working for you?" Jerk couldn't answer the question, and Jerry obviously didn't accept the offer for employment. 2 years after beginning his entrepreneurial adventure, Jerry heard that Jerk and Son went out of business. Jerry said that he never intended to harm Jerk and Son when he accepted general contractor's offer. He said that looking back on things, he realized that he had become Jerk's greatest nightmare. I thought the most amazing thing about the story was how that Jerry maintained his self-esteem in spite of all the ridicule. I also gained a respect for Jerry's father, who instilled an unshakable self-confidence in Jerry. And the last story is, Karen is sick and tired of eating takeout. Karen gets arrested. This happened about 5 to 6 weeks ago, but I just heard the story firsthand yesterday. Was told the story secondhand weeks ago, but the guy telling the story admitted he did not see some of it and heard even less. A fellow restaurant owner in my area was doing takeout and delivery only during the pandemic. When restaurants in our state were told we can open up for dine-in at 25%, he decided, as did I and many others, not to open. It just wasn't worth it. All orders at his place, be it a delivery service or customer picking up a takeout order, was done outside. Nobody except employees were allowed inside. Orders were taken outside of the parking lot by an employee. This happened a few days after the 25% was announced. Enter Karen and her not Karen friend. They drive up and get out of the car. Employee is delivering a takeout order and sees Karen and NK. Tells them the restaurant is not open for dine-in. Karen is not happy, proceeds to scream how sick and tired she is of eating takeout, and they will serve her and her friend now. Employee tells her that's not going to happen. Karen kicks him in the leg. Employee manages to still get in front of her, so she can't get in the door. Karen doubles down and stomps on his foot. The owner witnessed the initial kick and subsequent stomp, tells an employee to call 911 while he runs out to help the employee. Karen, not knowing the police are already being called, screams to NKF to call the cops. NK has done nothing. She's frozen in place, in the middle of the parking lot, not believing what she's witnessing from Karen. Karen is still trying to get in the door, but can't, as employees she assaulted has fallen in front of the door. This would have been a good time for Karen and NK to leave. Cop shows up and Karen thinks he's there to order the owner to let her and her friend eat in. Oh, delusional Karen. Cop tells her he's there for a reported assault. Cop calls for an ambulance as a second cop shows up. Karen starts screaming that the employee is faking his injury as a third cop rolls up. Karen screams that she was the one assaulted by everyone within a quarter-mile radius. Typical Karen crap. Ambulance shows up and starts treating employee. Owner invites one of officers inside. Meanwhile, outside, Karen demands to leave. Nope, not happening. She has to stay while this is being investigated. Owner has cameras inside and outside. Karen's tirade is all on camera, including the person who was getting his food delivered by the employee. He had his camera rolling and got audio of Karen in all her glory. When told she could not leave and was going to be arrested, Karen reacts by screaming and pinching the cop on the arm so hard he had a bruise. Oh, not Karen never moved during all of this. Owner said her eyes looked like tennis balls bugging out of her head. She was allowed to leave as she did nothing. Employee had 2 broken toes. Yup, raging Karen stomped that hard. Karen was handcuffed, put in a police car and taken to jail screaming all the way, how she would have everyone's badge. Again, typical Karen crap. All of this because she was sick and tired of eating takeout. One of the cops came by the restaurant the next day to ask about the employee. He told the owner how in the last month or so, there was an uptick in people getting arrested, banned from businesses, trespass orders who've never been in trouble with the law, in the age group of approximately 55 to 70 years old. Yup, Karen, 58 years old, never been arrested, no problems at all, will likely serve some time in jail, as well as being sued by the employee. Their reasoning? They're frustrated over this COVID-19 thing. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you liked it, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button.